drawing more fans from all over the world. Local consumer prices continue to hover at the 2% consensus rate in April.
Turning to robots to allow the visually impaired the chance to better indulge in cultural experiences. Like the number of hybrid cars registered in South Korea has surpassed 2 million with this locally developed Yuri rocket.
Arirang. Housing market shakeup? President Lee Jae-myung turns to experts and the public for new ideas on tackling Korea's real estate crisis as his administration seeks fresh solutions to cool the country's overheated property market. And GDP beats forecasts. Korea's economy outperformed expectations in the second quarter. We examine whether the stronger than expected growth puts the government's 3% target within reach. Finally, celebrating World Heritage. As UNESCO's World Heritage Committee meets in Busan, we introduce you to a special festival introducing visitors from around the world to Korea's intangible cultural heritage. Good evening and welcome to Newscenter on this Thursday. I am Song Yoo-jin filling in for Kim Da-mi. A ruinous real estate republic. That's how President Lee Jae-myung described Korea's overheated housing market at a cabinet meeting this week. Now, with the government expected to unveil a new round of housing market measures soon, the president today brought together experts and members of the public in search of fresh solutions. Take a look. Runaway housing prices due to limited supply and speculation. That was President Lee Jae-myung's diagnosis of Korea's real estate market as he convened a policy forum with experts and members of the public at the Blue House on Thursday.
모든 사람들이 집이 사놓으면 돈 되더라. 막 빌려서라도 사자. 인생을 걸고 뭐 집을 사서 그거밖에 돈 버는 길이 없다 이렇게 생각하고 모두가 거기에 몰려서 이렇게 되면 언젠가는 문제가 생기겠죠. 이제 그걸 미리 막자는 겁니다.
Leading up to the forum, much of the attention centered on possible changes to the tax system. According to discussions by relevant ministries and public feedback gathered online, many argued that tax benefits for owners of high-value homes should be scaled back. Currently, single home owners can receive the same maximum property tax deduction regardless of how much their home is worth. With the government still working out where to draw the line, Thursday's discussion focused on how ultra-high-value homes should be defined.
I think owner-occupied homes should be protected, but using the national average home price of 500 million won, or roughly $340,000 as the benchmark would be too low. Around twice the national average would be more appropriate.
If the threshold is set at an officially assessed value of 3 billion won, or $2 million, it would apply to about 0.3% of all homes nationwide, or roughly 50,000 households.
Beyond this threshold, participants also debated how the tax burden should differ depending on factors such as owner occupancy and multi-home ownership. President Lee suggested first setting a standard property tax for a typical single-home owner.
1주택에 대해서 기본을 정한 다음에 실거주 또 거주 용도일 경우에는 감해주고 그게 또 예를 들면 서민용 또는 중산층용이라 그러면 좀 보호하는 측면에서 또 약간 감해주고 이렇게 좀 정리할 수 있을 것 같고 또 지방 이런 데도 또 배려해주고.
Housing supply was another major focus. Lee said the government is working to cut delays in housing construction by more than half, including for large-scale government-led projects outside Seoul. Based on what was discussed, the government is expected to announce new housing measures later this month. Staying on the economic front, Korea's small and medium-sized enterprises recorded exports of $64 billion for the first half of this year, marking the first time exports have surpassed the $60 billion mark for the period. This is around 94 trillion Korean won, and it is up more than 11% from the same period last year. The number of exporting SMEs also reached a record high, increasing more than 2.4% year-on-year to 80,490 companies. Now, cosmetics posted the strongest performance, with exports reaching more than $5 billion, up more than 30% from a year earlier, setting a new record for first-half exports. In terms of export destinations, China was the largest market, accounting for more than $10 billion, followed by the U.S. and Vietnam. Korea's central bank on Thursday released advanced data that confirmed continued economic growth. The GDP grew 0.6% from the previous quarter, putting the government's 3% annual growth target within reach. To help us digest all of this, we have our economics correspondent Kim Junong in the studio. Welcome, Junong.
Thanks for having me, Eugene.
Great to have you here. So, Junong, many had expected that the Middle East conflict to leave a bigger mark on the second quarter, but based on this data, that doesn't seem to have happened.
Right. So Thursday's figures defied those concerns, and as widely expected, that's all thanks to semiconductors. Strong chip exports, along with limited impact of the Middle East conflict, helped keep the growth on track, while policy support also added momentum. The reading beat the Bank of Korea's May forecast by 0.4 percentage points. Although the pace slowed from the first quarter's 1.8% pace, the central bank said the economy continues to show solid growth momentum. It noted that growth typically weakens sharply after a strong quarter, but this time the economy defied that pattern. Private spending rose 0.4%, while government spending increased 0.2%. Facilities investment also increased on stronger demand for chip-making equipment, but construction investment fell. And growth in exports outpaced that of imports. Domestic demand and net exports each contributed 0.3 percentage points to growth. The central bank said the two made balanced contributions to the expansion.
Many had expected second quarter growth to rely largely on exports, but domestic demand and net exports contributed in equal measure, while private consumption and facilities investment continued to strengthen.
Real gross domestic income, or GDI, far outpaced GDP growth, up 15.6% on year in the second quarter. This marked the fastest pace in 38 years, with stronger chip export prices boosting the terms of trade.
So the numbers look certainly encouraging. So if this trend continues, will Korea be able to reach the government's annual growth target of 3%?
Well, for now, it certainly seems possible. But first, here's how major institutions see Korea's economic growth this year. The latest forecasts are clustered between 2.5% and 2.6%. The OECD made a particularly sharp revision this month, raising its outlook from 1.7% to 2.6%. And the central bank also hinted that an upgrade could come in its next economic forecast in August.
Even if quarterly growth averages around minus 0.1% in the third and fourth quarters, annual growth could still reach 3%. That's because growth in the first half of the year came in much stronger than expected.
If growth reaches 3% this year, it would mark the strongest annual expansion in 5 years. That also matches the government's latest outlook after it raised its forecast from 2% to 3% last week. The Finance Ministry said today's strong second quarter data has improved the chances of meeting that target.
And last but not least, tell us about the key factors we should be watching behind this optimistic outlook.
Well, externally, renewed tensions in the Middle East and U.S. tariffs still lie as key downside risks. Experts are also watching whether domestic demand, particularly consumer spending, can recover. Private spending in the second quarter remained positive, yet the pace remains slow compared with past recoveries. That's because growth has been driven largely by semiconductors, which experts say generate only limited multiplier effects across the broader economy.
The semiconductor industry has a relatively limited impact on consumption and job creation. Since it's capital intensive, it creates fewer jobs, so the benefits are shared by a smaller group of people. It also has relatively weak linkages with other industries, which limits spillover effects in the economy.
Another challenge is the economy's reliance on a single growth engine. Broader spillover into weaker industries will be key to more balanced growth. As for the longer-term outlook, much will depend on the sustainability of the chip cycle.
The key question is whether global demand for chips can be maintained or even grow further. The best indicator will be the AI data center investment plans of major U.S. tech companies, both the scale of those investments and whether they can be sustained.
Our economics correspondent Kim Jin-ong, thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Moving on to domestic politics, after weeks of negotiations, Korea's ruling and main opposition parties are close to completing the National Assembly's Standing Committee lineup. With key committee leadership posts nearly settled, lawmakers are expected to return to full-scale legislative work. Our National Assembly correspondent An Sung-jin has the details.
The National Assembly is close to finalizing the formation of its Standing Committee leadership for the second half of this year. During a plenary session on Thursday, lawmakers elected chairs for 6 standing committees on education, foreign affairs, trade, health, transport, and intelligence. The chair for the Gender Equality Committee still needs to be elected as the initial nominee withdrew her candidacy. This post is likely to be filled next week to complete the parliamentary process, nearly 61 days after the sessions for the second half of the year began on May 30th.
We must put the people's livelihoods and the national interest first. By swiftly launching standing and special committees, we should address pressing issues and deliver tangible results for the public.
There had been a long political deadlock over the allocation of standing committee chairmanships. After negotiations broke down over the control of the influential Judiciary Committee, the main opposition People Power Party boycotted the remaining committee elections in protest, arguing that the committee allocation lacked bipartisan agreement. The ruling Democratic Party had earlier unilaterally appointed committee chairs for 11 standing committees, including the Budget Committee and the Judiciary Committee, citing its parliamentary majority and the need to ensure continuity in legislative operations. Following weeks of negotiation, the PPP agreed to accept the proposed distribution and take charge of the remaining 7 committee chairmanships.
Even with only 7 committee chairmanships, we'll continue to hold the government accountable and fight to restore balance in the National Assembly.
We're glad the People Power Party has ended its boycott and returned to committee work. It's time for the Assembly to move beyond political disputes and focus on legislation that benefits the public.
With most standing committees now in place, the National Assembly is expected to accelerate deliberations on key livelihood bills, the supplementary budget, and other major policy issues. Standing committee chairs are typically assigned to 3-term lawmakers or 4-term lawmakers who have not previously served as committee chair. Seniority is traditionally used as a deciding factor when candidates have the same number of terms. An Sung-jin, Arirang News.
In other news, speaking to reporters in light of his first anniversary since taking office, South Korea's Unification Minister Chung Dong-young says the Lee Jae-myung administration has shifted its North Korea policy from denuclearization-first to a peace-first approach.
We have redefined our goal as realizing a nuclear-free Korean peninsula. Instead of using the term North Korea's denuclearization, we are mapping out a peace-led strategy that prioritizes halting North Korea's nuclear program. As I have always emphasized, including when I first took office, an initial halt is the top priority.
Chung added that in the past year, the government has effectively scrapped the previous administration's stance, criticizing it as a tool for domestic politics. He noted that demanding denuclearization upfront has kept inter-Korean dialogue stalled for 7 years. Instead, Chung said the primary goal has been redefined to realize a nuclear-free Korean peninsula, adding that he still sees a mutual strategic need for future talks between Washington and Pyongyang. And as geopolitical and economic uncertainties continue to grow, Korea is looking to revive trilateral cooperation with Japan and China, an effort reflected in President Lee Jae-myung's summit meetings with the leaders of both countries earlier this year. Now, a forum in Seoul today explored ways to get the three-way partnership back on track. Oh Soo-young reports.
Seoul has called for solidarity and flexible networks of practical cooperation in East Asia amid growing geopolitical and economic fragmentation. Speaking at the East Asia Cooperation Forum on Thursday, First Vice Foreign Minister Park Eun-joo pointed to intensifying power politics, nationalism and protectionism, alongside demographic change, industrial restructuring and risks from AI.
As the world's most dynamic and innovative region, East Asia continues to hold enormous potential. Once again, it is time to gather our collective wisdom and steadfast commitment as we navigate the era of the uncertainty.
The combined gross domestic product of Korea, Japan and China came to more than $24 trillion in 2024, roughly a fifth of global output. But historical and territorial disputes, different political systems and competing security alignments continue to limit cooperation. The leaders of the three countries last met in May 2024, reviving the trilateral summit after a hiatus of more than 4 years. The next summit remains uncertain, however, amid a sharp deterioration in Japan-China relations over Taiwan and continued rivalry between the United States and China, creating ideological and institutional bifurcation. Experts stress the need to seek common ground.
Try to reach some common understanding as to how to manage the conflicts in the region, such as territorial disputes. As far as China is concerned, China hopes that we would have a code of conduct in the South China Sea as soon as possible. Also, the countries should probably look more closely at the interests, shared interests and stakes, and try to cooperate on these issues, ranging from trade, investment, and how to regulate AI development. Yeah.
Well, I mean, Korea and Japan are very, very dependent on China still. Even though there are some sensitive areas in which we have to be more careful, but and I think that will continue for the foreseeable future. So the trick is how to manage these sensitive issues. And
another question was how to prevent economic security measures and technological development from hardening into rival regional blocs and even AI warfare. Participants said Korea could use its middle power position to convene and bridge regional differences.
We normally say that non-traditional security issues, such as AI or public health or climate change, those issues are relatively easier to build up cooperation among those three countries. So,
in the face of an increasingly uncertain geopolitical and economic landscape, participants here say that sustained dialogue and practical cooperation will be essential to tackling shared challenges and building a more resilient future together. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
Shifting gears, UNESCO's World Heritage Committee has adopted a decision calling on Japan to acknowledge and present the full history of Korean forced labor at the Sado gold mines. During its 48th session in Busan, the committee said on Thursday that Japan had made just minimal progress and was yet to present a fully fledged historical interpretation. Now, the term full history refers to clearly identifying the forced mobilization of Koreans to work at the mines during Japanese colonial rule. Japan must submit an implementation report by December 1st, 2027, which will be reviewed by the committee in 2028. Authorities noted that the decision reinforces South Korea's efforts to correct historical distortions as it was adopted without amendment or debate. And we continue our special coverage of the 48th session of UNESCO's World Heritage Committee in Busan. Tonight, our Cho Young-eun takes us to the Intangible Cultural Heritage Festival, taking place alongside the event, offering exhibitions, performances, and hands-on experiences celebrating Korea's living traditions.
Traditional Korean vocal music comes alive through contemporary stage language. The performers say intangible heritage is sustained not only by preserving its music and techniques, but also by passing on its values and spirit from one generation to the next.
To ensure these traditions are carried on by future generations, understanding of their original forms must be developed first. At the same time, they also need the artistic vision to engage and communicate with today's audiences.
One of the highlights is a performance inspired by the elegant lines of Korea's traditional craftsmanship, where dancers transform the making of the traditional kat into the visual language of movements. The creative team says they sought to preserve the tradition without making it feel like something of the past. They aim to create a performance that audiences can embrace naturally.
Intangible heritage carries a quiet beauty and a profound sense of dignity. It is neither flashy nor exaggerated, yet the longer you experience it, the more deeply it stays with you. I hope audiences will remember it not only for its beauty, but also for the significance and weight it carries.
Each performance has been reinterpreted through newly arranged music and choreography, showing that intangible heritage continues to evolve through time and new artistic influences.
The lion dance is known for its sweeping mane and dynamic movements. With newly arranged music, we redesigned the choreography and stage movements while ensuring they remain true to tradition.
Structured around 7 interconnected themes and featuring master artisans from across Korea, every artistic decision was guided by one principle: preserving the essence of intangible heritage while expressing it in a modern way.
Our main goal was to reinterpret intangible heritage in a contemporary way while fully preserving the beauty of its essence. We also worked to create a modern visual language through the lighting and stage design.
The spirit of UNESCO comes alive through the shared values of harmony and coexistence. Running through July 29, the Intangible Cultural Heritage Festival showcases the artistic value of Korean heritage and its potential to inspire people today. Cho Young-eun, Arirang News, Busan.
Now, Busan isn't just holding this year's UNESCO World Heritage Committee. The city is also seeking World Heritage status for its wartime legacy as Korea's temporary capital during the Korean War. Jung Hae-rim shows us why Busan believes its history deserves global recognition.
At first glance, it may look like an ordinary building in Busan. But during the Korean War, it formed part of the city that kept South Korea functioning when Seoul could no longer serve as the capital. What is now the Donghwa University Museum was once used as the wartime government's administrative headquarters. From here, state affairs continued as officials, refugees, and institutions relocated to Busan. Nearby, a special exhibition at the Busan Modern and Contemporary History Museum traces how the city was transformed during the war.
A war can cause a country to collapse and make normal life impossible. But Busan adapted its existing facilities so the government could continue operating, public administration could function, and refugees could rebuild their lives. That's the greatest historical value of the wartime capital of Busan.
This place is 국제시장, translated to international market. During the Korean War, this place became a vital marketplace for refugees, where they found relief supplies, imported goods, and everyday necessities. Today, Gukjae Market is one of Busan's busiest tourist attractions. But during the Korean War, it became a center for refugees as they tried to rebuild their lives. Just around the corner is Gangtong Market. Its name, meaning canned market, dates back to the war when canned food from UN relief supplies and US military rations was traded here. The story of Busan's wartime capital extends beyond its markets. Nearby, Yeongdo Bridge became a symbol of reunion and hope for families separated by the war. As the only UN cemetery in the world, the United Nations Memorial Cemetery stands as a lasting reminder of the international forces that fought in defense of South Korea. Together, these places tell the story of how Busan kept a nation running through war. It was where the government continued to operate, refugees built new lives, and the international community came together during one of Korea's most difficult times. Korea plans to submit the wartime capital of Busan Heritage for UNESCO World Heritage inscription in 2029. 정혜림, Arirang News, Busan.
Jeju Island officially wrapped up its monsoon season for the year on Sunday, but monsoon rain is still hanging around across the central regions of the mainland. Tomorrow, rain will stick around across Seoul and Gangwon-do province. Then from the afternoon into the evening, scattered showers could pop up across the Chungcheong-do provinces and the southern regions. Meanwhile, intense heat continues across much of the south. Following the southern regions, parts of the capital area, including Seoul, are now under a heat advisory. And the sweltering weather will continue tomorrow, with high humidity making it feel even hotter. As for temperatures, Seoul will start the day at 24 degrees Celsius, Chuncheon 23, and Daegu 26 degrees. Then by the afternoon, Seoul will get up to 29 degrees, Daegu 35, and Busan 32 degrees. The monsoon rain will continue across the central regions through early next week. And once it moves out, the heat will ramp up across the country. Now here's a look at the weather around the world. And that's Newscenter for this Thursday. I'm Song Mi-jin, filling in for Kim Da-mi. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching, and we'll see you right back here tomorrow at 8 p.m. Korea time.
It is not extravagant. It isn't even symmetrical. And yet, why does it remind us of the moon? This is the white porcelain we now know so well, the moon jar. Stripped of all decoration with its milky glaze, its imperfect, rounded curves and proportions resemble a full moon hanging in the night sky. Or perhaps it is the familiar name moon jar that leads us to think of the moon. But did you know it once had a different name? In the Joseon era, this jar was simply called 백항, meaning a white jar, or 백대항, a large white jar. So how did this simple white jar come to be seen as the moon? The master of abstract art, Kim Han-gi, was so fond of white porcelain that he even collected it. According to a memoir written by an antique dealer he frequented, it was after Korea's national liberation that Kim Han-gi began collecting ceramics, and he grew particularly fond of one white jar, naming it the moon jar. It was his close friend Choi Sun-woo, former director of the National Museum of Korea, who popularized the name. Through a newspaper column, he formally used the term moon jar, and it has since become the accepted name for this cultural heritage. The moon jar, like an old friend, comforting, like a mother's embrace, warm and gentle. What moon lingers in your heart tonight?
When did it all begin? The beginning of joy embedded in daily life, where steps of learning meet a bigger world, and history coexists. The legend continues. Innovative technologies come together to unfold a new future, building a better tomorrow. A joy accessible to all, always present in your daily life. JDC.
Knock knock! The magical door to the world of K-animation is swinging wide open. Meet your instant new BFF, the adorable Catch. Tina Ping will have you hooked from the very first glance. Need a hand? Our Robocar Poli Rescue team is always zooming in to save the day. How about tagging along on Pinkfong and Pal's super exciting quest to reclaim their lost magic? With the mysterious life forms Cabion by your side, you can become a Cabion master and save humanity like the total hero. Protecting children's innocence while igniting their boundless imaginations. That's the magic of Korean animation. K-animation, the ultimate bestie for kids worldwide.
Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mo-gyan. International cooperation is becoming increasingly important in protecting the world's cultural and natural heritage. From climate change to desertification, the challenges facing historical sites today go well beyond the national borders. Now, against that backdrop, Korea and Mongolia have agreed to deepen cooperation through joint research and conservation projects following President Lee Jae-myung's recent state visit to Mongolia. So today we'll explore what this partnership could deliver and how it could contribute to preserving heritage for future generations. And to help us understand what this partnership could mean, we're joined by Dembril Sodomsambu, president of the Mongolian Academy of Sciences, which is leading many of Mongolia's scientific and heritage research initiatives. President Dembril, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me.
So let's start right away. So we hear you're in Korea to attend the 48th UNESCO World Heritage Committee meeting in Busan. We wonder, what is your main goal for this visit?
Yes. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude to the government of Korea and the local organizing committee for the opportunity to attend this meeting. I'm very glad to be here as a part of this important international event. Around 3,000 delegates from more than 150 countries gathered here in order to discuss world cultural and natural heritage-related problems. Of course, a main goal of our visit is to meet and discuss with other colleagues about common problems we face together in protection of World Heritage Sites. The government of Mongolia is submitting the funeral sites of the Xinyu elite as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. We very hope that the committee supports our proposal and adopt a preservation declaration regarding these historical sites. Today, we are here in nice Busan city. We meet nice people. We have nice weather, and we are diving into the fantastic atmosphere during this international event. Our Korean friends prepared everything perfectly. Of course, thank you very much for the hospitality.
So we hope the latest visit could help lay out foundations for longer-term cooperation between the two countries as well. But before speaking further of that, we go back to President Lee's recent state visit to Mongolia. The Mongolian Academy of Sciences signed an MOU with Korea's National Heritage Administration on joint research to preserve cultural and natural heritage as well. So from your perspective, what is the biggest significance of this latest agreement?
Yes, the state visit of President of Korea, Lee Jae-myung, to Mongolia was the first summit-level diplomacy between two countries in the last 15 years. More than 20 official documents were signed during this visit. Mongolian Academy of Sciences signed Memorandum of Understanding with the Korean National Heritage Administration on joint research activities to protect and preserve cultural and natural heritage. Our academy and its affiliated research institutes have a close relationship with the Korean National Heritage Administration. We agreed to expand our cooperation in the research field of mutual interest, including history, culture, geology, paleontology, and archaeology. Today, we are working together to draft an action plan within the framework of this MOU. I would like to notice that we have an ambitious plan and ideas on the conservation and restoration of cultural and natural heritage, on organization of exhibition in Korea, expedition in Gobi Desert in Mongolia. As you see, the biggest significance of this agreement is that it provides new impulse for our joint activities.
Well, staying with this MOU, it also includes joint surveys and restoration projects in the Gobi Desert. You've touched upon that. So if you look at this cooperation with Korea, what would you say is the top priority?
Of course, we will do many joint works. It's a joint studies of cultural and natural heritage in Mongolian Gobi Desert and its protection and restoration, joint activities on prevention of crimes against cultural heritage spoils, and other important measures are the top priority. We have been cooperating with Korean researchers for many years in the fields of archaeology and paleontology. Of course, it helps us to work together to improve protection management for sites of ancient organisms and historically, culturally designated monuments.
It sounds like this Gobi Desert will be one of the flagship projects under this partnership moving forward. But if we look beyond this agreement itself, this Gobi Desert is increasingly being affected by climate change and desertification. It's quite concerning. Why is this so important to preserve and study both cultural and natural heritage together under these evolving environmental conditions?
You're completely right. There's a cultural heritage sites in the Gobi Desert exists under extremely harsh natural conditions throughout all 4 seasons. In summer, temperatures can reach plus 40 degrees Celsius, and in winter they drop to minus 40 degrees, and the spring brings severe sandstorms. It's clear that climate change is having a strong impact on these sites. For example, at one dinosaur trackway site in Western Mongolia, after we conducted a preliminary survey, we returned 1 year later to continue the work and found that more than 20 trackways of giant dinosaurs that we had marked had been completely eroded and destroyed by the wind. These footprints can never be recreated. Therefore, developing protection plans and intensifying research on such heritage has become extremely urgent. The same process is happening at many fossil sites across Mongolia, of course.
So protecting nature and preserving heritage really have to go hand in hand.
Yes.
And if we turn to another major project, beginning in 2028, Korea and Mongolia will launch their first joint underwater archaeological survey at the Lake Badarkand. What historical significance does this site hold for Mongolia? And also, what do you hope to achieve through this joint excavation?
You know that Mongolia is a landlocked country. We don't have any ocean. And almost all Mongols are not good swimmers. And also the underwater archaeological survey is a completely new methodology for our researchers. In frame of a memorandum of understanding between Korea's National Heritage Administration and Chinggis Khan National Museum, first a joint underwater archaeological survey at Lake Badarkand will be carried out in 2028. I am sure that this expedition will be so interesting for Mongolian archaeologists because it's underwater and it will be used advanced Korean remote sensing and diving technologies.
Wow, it's certainly exciting, and it will really open a new chapter in archaeological cooperation moving forward. Now, if we speak more broadly, Korea is known for its advanced heritage conservation and digital technologies, of course, while Mongolia, on the other hand, is home to vast natural heritage and a rich nomadic culture. Where do you think the two countries can create the best synergy by working together?
World-class experience in advanced heritage conservation and digital technologies from Korea, and of course the vast natural heritage and a rich nomadic culture from Mongolia create the greatest synergy. Today we live in a rapidly changing world. Technological progress is having an extraordinary impact on humanity and plays a vital role in deepening the knowledge that comes from science. Mongolia has a vast territory rich in both cultural and natural heritage. This heritage remains relatively a little disturbed. I firmly believe that using new methods and advanced technologies, we could study these untouched natural and cultural treasures and to develop management systems for their protection in the future.
It will really be a case of each side bringing different strengths to the table. Now, if we look ahead, so this joint research, it goes beyond excavation to include conservation, exhibitions, and education as well. How would you like to see Korea-Mongolia cooperation develop in the years to come?
Of course, I have no doubt that we will have a successful cooperation in the coming years. We will certainly conduct many field expeditions and excavation works in the Mongolian Gobi District. At the same time, we plan to implement new research projects, exchange scientists, support young Korean and Mongolian researchers, and jointly organize conferences, workshops, and exhibitions. The success of this collaboration depends, of course, on interpersonal relationships, mutual respect and understanding, as well as a shared willingness to work together of these people. I hope that Mongolian and Korean scientists, especially young researchers, become good friends throughout the years of our collaboration. They are our future, and the success of this collaboration truly depends on them.
Right, we'll definitely look forward to that. But speaking of the youth generation, President Dembrel, if we change gears a little bit, K-pop and Korean dramas remain hugely popular in Mongolia, we hear, but interest has also expanded to Korean food, education, and healthcare as well. Why do you think the Korean wave has become so influential across so many different sectors there?
K-pop and Korean dramas are highly popular, not only in Mongolia, but also on a global scale. Many Mongolian citizens travel to Korea and are making business here. Also, many Koreans have a good business in Mongolia. During the last 3 decades, we became much closer to each other. I like Korean food, and at least once per week, I attend the Korean restaurant in Ulaanbaatar. Nowadays, many Mongolian students are studying in Korea. I am sure that even more young people wish to study here. Why the Korean wave has such influence across many different fields in Mongolia question. I think people like it. Mongolian people like it, especially young generation like very much K-pop. Men and women like Korean dramas. Ladies like K-beauty products. And I like Korean food. And we like it.
Well, it's a simple statement, but it says a lot about how much communication and understanding the two countries have within each other in terms of people-to-people exchanges, of course. Now, finally, if that's the case, do you think the Korean wave can also serve as a bridge to deepen cooperation in cultural heritage and academic research between the two countries as well?
I don't know how the Korean wave would serve as a bridge to deepen cooperation in cultural heritage and academic research between Korea and Mongolia. But I'm almost sure that the Korean wave, including K-pop music, K-dramas and television series, films, fashion and beauty, and online games will serve as a bridge to connect the people of two countries much more closer. All delegates from around the world who come to the UNESCO World Heritage Committee meeting in Busan are working together to deepen cooperation in cultural heritage and academic research globally. Mongolian Academy of Sciences and the Korean National Heritage Administration, we together will do our absolute best for successful collaboration between our countries in that field. I will assure you, we will work together.
Well, we'll certainly be looking forward to that, and it'll really be interesting to see whether that growing public interest can translate into even deeper academic and cultural cooperation in the years ahead. President Demberel, thank you so much for your discussion and for your time tonight. We hope you enjoy the rest of your stay and have a safe trip back.
Yes, thank you very much.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame tonight. Be sure to tune in again next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Until then, stay informed and engaged.